Friends, I hope that everyone has been safe and is doing well. I wanted to give you a bit of an overview of the reference management tool called Zotero, and hoping that this may help you if you're still looking for a reference management tool for your research papers. My supervisor Petros recommended it to me, and I found it to be super helpful. So, hopefully, in the next five minutes, I'll walk you through some of the features that I use most regularly. And if that's something that is of interest to you, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk to you a bit more in person. So, the first thing is just kind of talking a bit about Zotero. As you can see, this is their website, and they have versions available for Mac, Windows, Linux, and also on your mobile device, which is kind of cool. It's a free download, so you can install that. As you can see, I've got a logo, a Zotero on my computer, and there's actually a client. But in fact, when you go to Zotero.com, you can actually log in and you can set up a free account. If you exceed the storage amount of 300 megabytes, meaning to say you start loading a ton of documents in there, then you may want to pay, but it's actually quite affordable, and I don't know if you're actually really going to get to that point. That being said, as you can see, I actually do have a library, and I've created some folders, and I've actually organized a bunch of references. And for the sake of the demo, I'm actually going to use the Mac client. I've organized, because my papers on information systems, culture, identity, and mergers and acquisitions. I've looked at some of the broader themes as I was doing my literature review and breaking down documents into different components. And if, for example, under organizational culture, there's some very important research that's been around since the 50s, and these are some key documents that I've seen quite a lot of people referencing. And so the way it works is there's an entry for every single one of these documents. And if I click on one of these, you'll actually see that there's a bit more information about the author, about when it was published, and the journal reference. And in some cases, you can actually reference and upload either link to the document if it's on another website, or in some cases, you can actually upload the PDF. You can actually attach the PDF here. And once you basically upload a document, it actually syncs with the cloud, which is pretty cool, which is why you'll see there's actually an online Zotero account that actually has either linked docs or PDF files. So on the go, right, you can actually review these documents, which I tend to do quite a bit if I'm on the train or I'm waiting for a flight. A couple of things then, well, if you have all of your documents uploaded into Zotero, what does it do for you? So a bit of background, like I think like a lot of us, prior to starting the course, or as we started this whole program, we started looking for documents and reviewing them, and I saved a bunch of stuff on my Mac, on my computer, and I used a spreadsheet to reference everything. As I started working with my supervisor, he mentioned that it actually made a lot of sense to start using a reference tool, and Zotero is the one that he used. And he explained to me a couple of reasons why it actually makes sense. So aside from just organizing all the documents and putting them in an easy to reference place, I think the beauty about this is when you actually start authoring work. So for example, I actually have, part of my RP1 that I've written so far. And if I go all the way to the bottom, I actually have references. So sorry about that. These are references, right? And doesn't look very spectacular, but the way it works with Zotero is that and if you use Windows, there's a plugin for Microsoft Word. If you use Google Docs, there's also a free plugin. And the way it works is you basically create a new document. So I just have a almost blank document, and you go to the bottom and you actually basically click on Zotero and add a bibliography. And what it'll do is you have to make sure that you create an account first. So I actually do have an account in Zotero, and it just links to it. And it looks like I need to insert a citation. So I'm actually going to randomly pick some text, for example, and let's just say that there's a citation that I'm very interested in. And the way you do that is you basically just add a citation. So you can actually reference. Now, this is the interesting thing. With every new document, and you can actually pick a specific style. I've spoken with Frederick, and he says ESCP doesn't have a specific reference format that they recommend. They want us to defer to our supervisors, but a lot of people use APA. And the beauty about this is, which I started to realize after we were working through this, at some point, especially for those of us who are interested in pursuing the academic track, you may be submitting your work to multiple journals, and different journals actually have different submission requirements. So if you actually have everything formatted one way, and let's say you decided to submit to another journal that follows the Chicago Manual of Style, instead of manually going in to update all of the individual references, which, face it, you may have dozens if not hundreds of references in your paper, you just go in here and it auto updates it for you. So I think that's the huge time saver. For this example, I'm just going to use APA 7th edition. I'm going to click on OK, and I'm actually going to look for some reference. So as I start typing, right, in text in this plugin, it starts finding documents, and I'm actually looking for this particular reference, and I'm just going to hit the return key on my keyboard, and what that's done is it formatted and it added in, inserted the citation in my text. And interestingly, what I've done at that point is, obviously I can keep adding, I can have multiple citations, right? And now that I have this here, you could imagine adding a couple more. So I mean, I'm just going to do that. There's actually Control Option C for those of you who use Mac, right? And I'm going to look for a couple more. You can have multiple citations. There you go. And just hitting enter again, it inserted all of them. And as you can see, over time, you'll have more citations, and when you're done with your text, you can actually scroll to the bottom wherever you choose to insert your references, and I'm just going to add the bibliography section, and it actually goes on to all of the text that it saved, and it automatically adds this, right? So I can just say, references, for example, and just change that to a different heading level. So again, what's useful is you can always come back in here, you can edit a reference, you can change what you're using, you can format it differently if you want, and it just makes it so useful. Now, for those of you who have all of your references somewhere else, you might be asking, well, part of the battle is importing everything into Zotero, right? How you add all of this stuff in, I mean, do you bite the bullet and spend like 10 hours just uploading all your references? So the cool thing is there's actually a faster way. And I looked up a document. This is just ResearchGate. And you'll notice that there's a DOI number for a particular document, right? So for example, this is a document that I'm interested in. It's on IS, and it talks about IT identity, and it's definitely something that I want to reference after reading the paper. And so what I can do is I can actually go into Zotero. I'm going to copy over the DOI reference. Just copy, right? Right-click copy. I'm going to go into here. I'm going to find the appropriate folder. This is my IT identity folder or collection. And there's like a magic wand with a plus button. If I click on this, you notice that you can add ISBN, DOI, PMIDs, ArcSiv, all sorts of bibli codes. I'm just going to paste this in. And it automatically found all of the reference information and annotated that, including the link to the document, right, if you need that. So it's actually quite fast. It's quite easy if you choose to go that way. I have some documents that I've saved, right? So for example, if you just have a PDF document lying around that you want to use, you can you can actually import it. So let me just go into, for example, a document. I have some docs maybe that I can just pull in. So let's say I have a PDF file, right? You can directly attach the PDF file If you want to add a brand new entry, you can just add a journal article and you can manually put all this stuff in. I'm just going to call this test because I'm going to delete it later on, and you can have an author, John Doe, right? And you can put in the date of publication and so on and so forth, right? You can put all that information in, and then once you've done that, you can actually add an attachment, which can be a URL link from the website, or if you actually have a copy of the document, right, you can actually add it in, right? And that gets synced with the cloud. So as and when you want to access that document, you can click on that. Again, this is a mind map file. I don't know if I have a plugin, so I'm not going to mess with that, but you'll see most of the stuff that are attached tend to be more PDFs. So yeah, just kind of really summing up, Zotero is a good reference management tool. It's not the only one out there. There's Mendeley and a bunch of other tools, but I definitely use this, and it's been very much a time saver and a productivity tool as we're collecting information and inserting it into our documents. So one more thing actually that was quite valuable. If you are collaborating with someone, I have to find the option. I think you have to do it on the website, but there's actually a way to share the library with someone else. So if you're actually co-authoring a paper, that's a useful use case, and you're adding and researching, or you're dividing up the research work and annotating, right? You can actually sync with a common repository. I think that may need like a different version of account, but it's definitely a cool tool, right? And something you can easily imagine using over the next couple of years and adding and involving the content over time. So there you go. Again, thank you so much for taking time to listen to this. If you do have questions, again, feel free to reach out to me, and more than happy to answer anything. I'm not an expert. Also, by the way, I forgot to mention, there are a lot of free resources. I just did like a quick search on YouTube, learn how to use Zotero. And in fact, when I first picked up the tool, there were a couple of blog posts that actually just walk you through the process of using it. And I'm sure there are a lot of very advanced features that I'm not using, but really for most of our day-to-day work, it's been excellent. So thanks again, and I hope this helps you all, and I hope to see you guys in person soon. Be safe. Bye.